Paxton beat Cornyn in the Texas Senate race, showing Trump leads the party. Europe is committing suicide and the Democrats celebrate Eid. All that and more on DayeTime. I'm your host, Avery Daye. Ken Paxton beat John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race. Of course, Paxton was endorsed by Trump. And all this does for me is further prove that Trump is the leader of the Republican Party, and there's no one else in politics that has the pull, the influence, the sway, the swagger that he does. There's no one as influential as Donald Trump. No one. In the primaries for governor, Trump endorsed 8 candidates. All 8 of those candidates won. For the House, Trump endorsed 101 candidates. All 101 of those candidates won. For the Senate, he endorsed 9 candidates, and all 9 of those candidates won. Trump is the most influential politician of our time. Ken Paxton was outspent 9-1, yet he won by 28 percentage points. Trump endorsed Paxton really for the SAVE Act, but let's just read it in Trump's words. Trump takes to Truth Social to write, the highly respected Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, an American First patriot and someone who has always been extremely loyal to me and our amazing MAGA movement, is running for the United States Senate to represent a place I love and won big 3 times with 6.4 million votes in 2024, most votes in the history of the state by far. I know Ken well, have seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels, and he is a winner. Ken is a strong supporter of terminating the filibuster and, very importantly, the Save America Act, something which polls at 87%, including Democrats. And yet they can't seem to get approved. Perhaps Ken can help move these important elements of government forward, because with the filibuster, as an example, the Democrats will terminate it on their first day in office, giving us 2 extra states, DC and Puerto Rico, and a greatly enlarged Supreme Court of the United States, probably going with their dream number of 21 justices from the 9 that we currently have. And these new justices will be radical left lunatics. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I want to keep it that way. Ken Paxton will help me do that, making America bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. It's a very long post. We'll keep it up if you want to pause and read it. He writes, John Cornyn is a good man and I worked well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough. Really what this is about is the SAVE Act. Cornyn was kind of seen as a GOP rhino, and he wasn't going hard enough for the SAVE Act and applying pressure. And now the expectation of Paxton is to put pressure on other members of the GOP to nuke the filibuster. Paxton will face Democrat weirdo. This guy's a freak, James Talarico. Look at him. That's fake, 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 fake. What is that? You're not fooling anyone. That's not Texas. This guy is seriously weird. He talks about his love for trans kids. Watch.
Something that you love that's not family or friends.
I love, and just say this because it's on my mind, the trans children who showed up yesterday at the state capitol to advocate for their humanity. They shouldn't have to, but it was an inspiration to watch.
Who says that? I mean, come on, you are mentally ill if you're thinking about transitioning children. If you're an adult who hasn't thought through why transitioning children is a problem, if you're an adult who can't figure out that this is extremely dangerous for kids, if you're an adult who is okay with permanently mutilating children and teaching them that they are not perfect the way they are, you should not be in our government. It shows that you lack serious critical thinking skills. You don't have any values or morals, and you are someone who will sway with the wind, because I promise you, when these kids grow up and realize the permanent damage that was done to them by adults like this freak, they'll pretend they weren't the ones pushing this down their throats. There is nothing moral about this. And the fact that he, James Talarico, and so many others, including all of Democrat leadership, can't see that is shocking and shows they have no place in our government. I have a friend from UCLA who I saw in Dallas about a month ago. He's very conservative, but he has a lot of moderate or not very politically charged friends. And he told me that all of his friends love Talarico. They think he's so great and middle of the road and logical. Okay, newsflash, there is nothing middle of the road about someone supporting the mutilation of children. There is nothing middle of the road about wanting open borders and saying that we should treat our southern border as a welcome mat, which James Talarico did. There's nothing middle of the road about demonizing white people. All things Talarico has done. I don't care how much you hate Trump, how much you hate the Republican Party. This guy is a red flag. There is nothing that could be done to anyone with logic who really does a deep dive into this to think that this is an okay man to support. Somehow, it's expected to be a close race, but I have faith in Texas. So long as Republicans get out and vote, we don't vote. So please go vote. Texas is so great because they haven't elected a Democrat to the Senate since 1988. Don't start now. Please, please. Don't be like Europe, who's committing suicide. We are going to talk a lot about what's happening in Europe on this show because Americans need to understand, one, how unique our country is, really how lucky we are, and two, what's happening in Europe so we can learn from it because it's a disaster right now. It's bad. The news out of the UK is that their Labour government is planning to house asylum seekers in newly built or refurbished council homes backed by a £100 million pilot scheme aimed at replacing migrant hotels. The scheme follows government projections showing net migration of almost 1.2 million people between 2026 and 2030, creating a demand for roughly 500,000 additional homes. Analysis based on Office for Budget Responsibility suggest this could mean nearly 40% of all new homes built in the UK by 2030 could go to migrants. 40% of all new homes built in the UK by 2030 could go to migrants. And you want to tell us that replacement theory is still a theory? That's statistics. That's numbers. This is a choice that people made when they voted. They have elected leftist politicians. This is a result of leftist governments, leftist policies, open borders. And call me old-fashioned. Call me crazy. Regardless of political affiliation, I believe that all politicians should represent and serve the people who elected them. Not migrants, not future residents. This is suicide. We are watching a once great nation commit suicide. It's very sad. Over in Belgium, a far right, extreme far right, because that's what they call anyone with common sense now, a political activist named Dries van Langenhove has been convicted a second time for hate speech. He posted this on X. A very sad announcement. I have just been convicted a second time for hate speech, and it is only due to a technicality that I could not immediately be sent to jail to the judge's frustration. In an ironic turn of events, it's actually thanks to my previous prison sentence for memes in a private group chat that I am now still free in a physical sense at least. Call me naive, but I didn't think they would take it this far, given that this precedent criminalizes many of the arguments used by even the most moderate politicians critical of mass migration. In February 2024, I gave a lecture at Catholic University Leuven wherein I linked mass migration to crime and a deterioration of our quality of life. Every single point I made was 100% the truth and based on scientific evidence. Cynically, even the judge that convicted me admits as much by writing in his verdict. Quote, Even if all of the statements made by Van Langenhove are based on scientific evidence and statistics, it makes no difference to the criminal intent. Van Langenhove is not charged with spreading false information. He is charged with presenting facts in a way that incites hatred against persons on the grounds of one or more of the protected criteria in the anti-racism law. He is charged with spreading facts, with presenting facts, data. Data is racist. Data can land you in prison, he continues. That's a lot of words to say. He just wants to send me to prison for speaking the truth. Even the regime media write, quote, "It did not matter to the court that Van Langenhove was quoting scientific sources. The judge argued that Van Langenhove's main message was that a big part of the societal problems like insecurity, housing shortages, and lowering educational standards are due to mass migration." You may think the regime media are being sympathetic to me in that first sentence, but in reality, they are warning people, even if you speak the truth, if you go against our narrative, we will crush you in every way possible. Both the public prosecutor and the judge did not present a single real argument as to how or against whom I would have incited hatred. So even if I would accept their crazy dystopic law, I still did not break it. The only argument they present is that I created a hostile atmosphere of us versus them in regards to migrants. But even if this silly argument, which is not even a punishable offense, is not true, to me, the deadly disease is self-hatred, and one of its worst symptoms is replacement migration. My enemy is thus not the migrants themselves, but those orchestrating the mass migration. Sadly, in Belgium, evidence is not needed and vibes are enough to put someone in jail. Given the fact that I have another court case coming up in September and I have a dozen active criminal investigations for hate speech, time is running out for me. I have already paid more than 420,000 euros in legal fees and there is no ending in sight. I have been in an intense battle of attrition for 8 years and must now regroup to make sure I can still win. If you want to help me, you can do so via the links below. If you can help in other ways, please contact me via DM. If you live in a country that still has free speech, never let them touch it. However noble they make the motives sound, because this is where it leads to. Every day, I feel so lucky to be born in America. And the thing about hate speech that people don't think through is, what is hate speech? Who do you want determining and defining what hate speech is? If you hate Donald Trump, would you want it to be Donald Trump? Do you want a singular power determining what you can and cannot say? Who is the arbiter of what is considered hate? People do not have the right to not be offended. People do not have the right to not have their feelings hurt. That idea is nearly gone throughout Europe as they cater to the migrants' feelings over and over and over again. They're prioritizing migrants over their citizens' rights. The left is always talking about how the right is taking their rights away, but without free speech, with censorship, we do not have freedom. When Dries was 23, he founded an organization to encourage political activism among Flemish youths. He set up private Facebook and Discord groups where members could discuss anything. The unmoderated Discord group had 164 members, and one person in the group asked people to post their edgiest memes. This and nothing more set the stage for Van Langenhove's felony that he discussed in that tweet. Well, the people in the Discord chat responded with crude, inappropriate memes. One image showed a frame from a classic Disney cartoon with the caption, "If you watch Cinderella backwards, it's about a woman who learns her place." Another featured Adolf Hitler with the caption, "You can't be a racist if there's only one race." The memes, it's not great. They were never available to the public. They surfaced only after someone hired a hacker to infiltrate the chats. Well, the government treated this as the crime of the century and raided the homes of 11 participants. Van Langenhove never endorsed this material. He said, "I have never seen them, liked them, or anything else." But that goes unreported. Politico wrote that he was convicted of inciting violence and denying the Holocaust, which obviously is not true. The Associated Press claims that he was convicted of spreading hate. Obviously not true. All he did was create these chats. The lower court banned Van Langenhove from running for public office for 10 years. That was later overturned. They also suspended the prison term that he got from this, but it can be imposed at any time if authorities are upset by something that he does. He takes to X to write, and this was June 20th, 2025. On June 20th, 2025, he took to X to write, "The consequences of this verdict are insane. They're doing this to me to send you a message. It is now possible in Europe to be convicted for memes posted by someone else in a group chat. People will now not only self-censor en masse, they will also distance themselves from each other out of fear of being convicted for what others joke about." They want people discouraged from fighting. They want to silence people. You can't let them succeed. Personal story. One of my friends, I was texting with him on WhatsApp, one of my friends in the UK, and he turned on disappearing messages for 24 hours. And I'm like, we're not doing anything sketchy. Why do you have disappearing messages turned on for? It just was weird. I asked him, he said his lawyers advised him to turn on disappearing messages with everyone because people can screenshot even a meme that you sent a year ago and take it to the police and you can get arrested. What a sad way to live your life. We need people who are willing to stand up and save future generations. You have to live your life for the next generation. Otherwise, the next generation will suffer. I'm going to pivot to the next story because we do have a kid in Scotland who took a stand, and I could not be more proud of someone that I don't know. His parents did such a good job. Oh, I'm so proud of this kid. This was a young Scottish boy in the Beaver Scouts. The group visited a mosque as part of an educational trip tied to the Scouts Faith Activity Badge, which involves learning about different religions and cultures by visiting places of worship. Well, this one boy quietly stood his ground, did not kneel or bow while staying in the group. He also reportedly didn't wear any of the provided head covering like the others. Hero. Incredible kid. By the way, this is indoctrination. This isn't teaching about other faiths. It's normalizing Islam. It's forcing a religion, a culture, because Islam is a culture, not just a religion, into countries that were not built on Islamic ideas. And thank God for it, by the way. Thank God our country was not built on Islamic ideas, or the West wouldn't have the freedoms that we do. Just take a look at Islamic countries. And do you know what this type of cultural sensitivity leads to? Suicide. Historically, the two largest destroyers of life have been Islam and communism, and the left have embraced both. How the liberals in the West have portrayed Muslims to be some minority group blows my mind. There's 2 billion Muslims in the world. They account for 26% of the global population. And throughout history, they actively expand and conquer. Their culture teaches them that Islam must enter every home by hook or by crook. And to clarify, not all 2 billion Muslims believe this, but in third world Islam, which is who we're importing into the Western world, they do. For the most part, their words, not mine. Listen to their teachings. Read their books. It's coming from them, not me. On May 26th, we had a Democratic Socialist Shahana Hanif, who is a New York City council member who represents District 39 in Brooklyn, tell 2 other Muslim women to be condemned by Allah to hell. Why? Because they don't hate the Jews. Literally. Hanif reacted to a post on X. It was a pro-Israel protest near Gracie Mansion organized by groups including End Jew Hatred. And the event featured Muslim speakers and organizers, notably Anila Ali, who is the president of the American Muslim and Multi-Faith Women's Empowerment Council, and another woman. They positioned the rally as moderate Muslims standing against extremism, criticizing Mamdani and supporting interfaith unity against anti-Semitism. Hanif, councilwoman, reposted ads for the event and wrote, "May Allah condemn you to Jahannam." That's the Islamic term for hell. She expressed that she prayed the Muslim organizers would be condemned to hell for participating in what she called a hate fest. This councilwoman is a globalize the Antifada. Guys, we can't have people like this in our government. This is extreme. It's anti-American, anti-freedom, anti-West, and it has consequences, major ones. I am not normalizing Islam or communism or Marxism in America. And if you want to go be around Islamic culture, move to one of their 50 plus countries. Great. I'm so happy for you. No one's stopping you. But stop invading ours. Stop infiltrating our government. It's not going to fly here unless the Democrats get involved, unless the Democrats get in power, because they are accepting this. The 2 largest destroyers of life, communism and Islam, and they're embracing it. It is creeping in. Look at AOC wearing a hijab for Eid.
To our neighbors, our community, and to this country, we can bring light.
Honestly, this account nails the commentary. This account writes in response to AOC and her hijab. AOC wearing a hijab exposes the total moral bankruptcy of the radical left. This theatrical Marxist simpleton screams about patriarchy while cosplaying in a garment mandated by brutal theocracies. Iranian mortality police execute women over this exact covering. Yet this lobotomized progressive parasite treats their subjugation as a trendy accessory. No notes. No notes. I don't need to be culturally sensitive. In America, it's actually my right not to be. That my ancestors fought and died for. If other people from other parts of the world want their countries to change, they need to step up and fight to improve their culture and countries for future generations. We cannot bring the whole world into America. We can't. Thinking otherwise will sink us. It's suicidal to open up our borders to cultures that are not compatible to ours. And it's suicidal to demonize those calling this out. Look at this. I don't want this in America. Hell no. No. Nope. There's nothing American about this. Nothing. There's nothing American about this. No. I've seen this play before and I didn't like the ending. Imagine telling someone in 2002 that this is what New York would look like, that this is who the mayor would be. It's tragic. Horrible. Tragic. New York City promised not to forget. No. That's not America. And I don't have to embrace it. That's my right. Okay, we'll be back tomorrow.